If you haven't heard, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Grow Up. I am your host, Fernando, and friend, or whatever it is that you want to call me, or however you refer to me as. But I'm here, and we are going to again take a beautiful life concept and decide what we thought about, if what we thought about it when we were children is relevant to what it is now that we are adults, But before we get into anything, I want you all to please click on the follow or subscribe, wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, share, tell the people in the comments how cool this thing is so that we can grow. Isn't it? 2023, we are growing big and better. And also, I want to remind you all about our event that we are going to be hosting at Optima College, Umjolo 2K live podcast event for Music and the Mind, hosted by Melancholic. If you guys don't know, we have about 4 shows on the network. We have Black Women Business, we have The Untanglement, we have this one, Growed Up, and of course we have Music and the Mind. So go over to www.neonbloom.co.za and catch up with all the podcasts there. And we have this beautiful gala dinner for the kids over at Optima College, the guys who hosted us for our Women at Work live podcast event. So the year is starting busy, guys. So I'm very excited about this event. And it is still the month of love. Last week we spoke a little bit about the evolution of love over time. And I want to kind of ride this love, what, this wave, what, love. And today I am with someone that, you know what, nah, I'm going to say this. I don't know if they even understand this part of their role in the reason why this podcast is happening. The first time in my life that I was forced to be behind the microphone to do a whole radio show, this man was there holding my hand from the beginning to the end. That day fell apart, okay? Because his person, you guys know that I was doing a radio show some time ago, and he was there to do to be interviewed by someone, and the person that was supposed to interview him didn't show up. This was for the morning show, so I had to hold the fork there. And then the people for the lunch show, they also didn't show up. And then there was a guest. This guy was there with me from the morning to the end of the afternoon, and I'll never forget that, because that moment is when I realized that, you know what, this thing is actually doable. This thing is doable. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the reason why I am podcasting today. Kxdzaii. You didn't know?
I didn't. I honestly did not know. It comes as a surprise to me as
That
well.
first day, that was the
Really
day I
comes as a
sat and I did
surprise.
a show. Any show behind the microphone was that day.
Really?
Yep.
I could not tell. Like, I really could not tell. From that first interaction, no
Yo.
ways. I wouldn't have said that it was your first time behind the microphone.
It was. The nerves were like piling. But yeah, you helped me hold it down, man.
And I think 3-4 years later, look at you now.
You know
You
what
have
I'm
your
saying?
own podcast and you killing it. I'm actually a huge fan of the Growed Up podcast, eh?
Thank you. And I'm a huge
Yeah,
fan
and
of your
thank
music
you.
also, man.
Like, looking at where the first time you interviewed me versus to where I am now, it's really been quite a journey, and you've been there for most of the part. So I'm really, really thankful for that. It's such an honor to be here today. No lie.
Got him. I'm happy. But tell the people then who you are, because they'll be like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "Okay, tell the people."
Okay. So so I am Kxdzaii. Well, government name is Wellington, but Wellington Kxdzaii Deneremoyo. but my I go by the name of Kxdzaii. I am a 24-year-old artist. I don't like to put myself into a genre or into a particular box because I don't like to operate like that. But for the most part, I am a Afro dancehall, Afro R&B, Afro pop, Afro soul artist, and I am fresh out of, you guessed it, Zimbabwe, and I touch
Yes.
on a lot of various topics, but the most predominant one that I find easy to write about is love. So
Mm.
that's, I think, my niche, if we can call it that.
So we can say musically you're not really tied down to something, but concept wise, you talk about love.
Yes, yes. So musically, I like to explore a lot, and I think it comes from listening to a lot of different genres at different times. I think
Mm.
last year I was looking at my stats as a listener on Spotify,
Mm.
and I think I listened to about a total of 40 something different genres throughout the year.
Yeah.
So I'm never tied down to one particular genre.
I was so disappointed on mine with mine. I felt so basic. Like, sometimes you wanna be more special, you wanna stand out, and
Yeah.
my Spotify wrap up was so basic. I was like, oh my god, I need to do better. Like, I'm such a pop
Well, I think
person.
it's okay.
No, it's not.
No, and that's
It's not
there's nothing
okay.
wrong with being a pop person.
Yo.
There's there's there's
Uh-uh.
absolutely nothing wrong with being a pop person. For me, music as an artist, music is 100% part of my life. So whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going, I'm always looking for new things to listen to, different genres to run into, different artists to
Hmm.
discover. So I'm always on the run and always trying to look for something that I can incorporate into what I do as an artist because um you might listen to a song and then get inspired to do something completely different. So that's where I usually get my inspiration from. So I think that's why I listen to so many genres. It's crazy though.
Hmm. Hmm. So what were your top five genres with Spotify?
um my top 5 genres were Afro beats,
Mm-hmm.
hip hop, R&B, there was dancehall,
Mm-hmm.
and then gospel. Those were my
Gospel.
top 5.
Nice.
Yes.
For me, it was, um, I'm not going to say in which order, but based on my embarrassment, you should know. But I definitely had Afro pop as well. Afro beats,
Mhm. Mhm.
R&B, hip hop was there, pop.
Mhm.
What was the fifth one? I don't even remember what was the fifth one. It would probably be like jazz or something like that because I do listen to like a lot of jazz as well. Um,
I'm actually growing into jazz, eh?
really
Yeah, yeah, I'm really growing into jazz. Like, at first I was skeptical because I was like,
old
how
people.
how do I really, no, not even the old people thing, but I think jazz is it's such an elite, it's an acquired taste in music. Not everybody can listen to jazz and be okay, but I think I'm growing into it. So I think that's one genre that I'm gonna try and dive into more
Mm.
as we go into the new year.
I think with jazz, what is interesting because for me, my facet or my interest in jazz basically grew while I was studying, right? Because I studied
Mm,
music.
mm,
So a lot of now schooling, all my assignments and everything has to do with like learning all these songs and
mm,
understanding
mm,
jazz standards, understanding jazz to an extent. And when you start just realizing how each instrument plays a role in just the overall song, it's not, I feel like pop kind of has like, you have the basic groove, you have the basic feel, and there's those very um it's not very like individualized concepts. It's like the basic, just the surface level. You have a good groove, you have a good beat, it vibes, the lyrics are alright, you got a good song. Whereas jazz,
yeah,
in
yeah.
each instrument plays a role. Like in when one instrument is removed from the entire ensemble, you'll hear it. You'll hear that there's something
Mm,
missing. So that's kind of like what I learned
Mm.
to appreciate. And then vocally now, because you have to learn scatting, and the idea behind scatting is to mimic an instrument, right? I know to many people it sounds crazy,
Mm.
shabadaboo, boo, but think about it like if you hear someone scatting, a good example is like Hugh Masekela, right? He is a trumpet
Yeah.
player. When you hear
Mm-hmm.
he's singing his melodies, they sound like a
Mm.
trumpet. Like his vocals move like a trumpet. So when you start paying attention to the effort and the thought process behind jazz, it becomes more interesting, and you also start realizing, yes, there's some pretentious jazz. I'm not gonna lie. Like there's somewhere I'm like, nah, I don't vibe with this. This is way too much. But like just the clean, straight to the point stuff is very fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, what I like more is the instrumental one, the instrumental jazz,
Yeah.
because in times where I'm like reading and I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
my nerd on, it's just soothing to have that in the background, you know.
Mm.
But I would definitely look up scatting because that sounds like something that I might want to incorporate into what I do as an
Yeah.
artist.
Yeah, look into
Mm.
scatting. And because also it will make you practice your music, right? It will make you learn your
Yes,
scales.
yes,
It will make you actually look
yes.
into theory, understanding, because now you're not just singing a melody just because it matches with the chords. Now you're actually
Mm.
understanding the each individual note within that chord composition that maybe the
Oh
piano
yeah.
player is playing, and you
Mm.
can like
Mm.
now
Mm.
dissect that chord, and these are all the notes that you can play around with. Like to that
Mm.
extent, it's a fascinating idea, and I enjoy it. So,
It really is. It
but it's
really is. You should become a
very,
music director, hey?
my dream
Mm-hmm.
was, I've always said this, and my mom even reminds me a lot. Like, I'm very much, I like are very good at seeing something, envisioning something, and bringing it to life, right?
Mm.
um I like that. So I've always wanted to be in the background of stuff, not so much
Mm.
in the
Mm.
forefront. And people keep pushing me like, sing. I'm like, I don't want to sing. I want to teach people how to sing. That's where my passion is. So like when I would teach music and I teach students how to scat, what to
Mm-hmm.
look for in scatting, even within
Mm-hmm.
your pop song, how can we
Yeah.
go, how can we incorporate scatting? That's what I like. I like just
Mm.
showing concepts and seeing that thing come to life with people.
Hmm.
I don't know, but I feel like a musical director. Oh, those people are serious.
Well, you can take a less serious approach and do
I
it for
guess.
like artists that are in the mainstream, or like just find somebody who's passionate
Yeah,
about music and then
I
just
want to
work with
do
them.
that actually. I want to
Mm.
do consulting for like
Yeah.
mainstream artists. Like, let's say for you, right? Like, you'd bring me a song.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I should actually start with you. You'd be my test subject. Where you
Yeah,
send me
I
songs
wouldn't
is like
mind.
in try this and try that, like in
Mm.
maybe mess around with the melody. Let's try that. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Nah. Then you start a
Mm-hmm.
thing. Because I feel like it just opens your eyes up to like in more potential with just
Yeah,
exploring the music.
it definitely does. Because for me, the singing is kind of like a self-taught thing, you
Mm,
know. So to dive deeper into like that different level of intricacy, like okay, there's
mm,
this that goes into it, da 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 da. You can also do this. You can also do that. That would
mm.
actually be very very interesting,
Not,
and it would help my development as an artist as well.
I'll take you on.
Yeah,
It'll also help me polish um
the
what
skill.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's just been I've been sitting on it. Like I
Mm.
haven't sung in so
No, no, don't worry.
long.
I don't think you should worry yourself. I mean,
I
look at
haven't
me.
sung in so
I am
long.
what people would call a plant, because I came from being a rapper
Mm.
to being a singer. I mean, that's a switch that most people don't even, because usually it's singer to rapper, but you know, I did it the other way around.
I think your way is smarter because rapping takes a whole other skill, and a whole other feel to it. Like every time I rap,
Mm-hmm.
you can hear I'm not a rapper. I am so bad at rapping. I don't have the swag. I don't have the swing, the thing, the fa-fa-boom. Mm-mm.
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
don't have it.
And for me, I think it was like, again, like I said, I've always been uh a soft guy. I'm not too violent,
Yes.
So singing allowed me to now project my voice and my thoughts and my emotions in a way that is more vocal and makes a lot
Mm,
more sense, you know. So for me, I think that's where I kind of like found my, because I always wanted to find my voice in that way, but then it
mm,
took time to develop it, and eventually when I developed it, I was like, oh, okay, cool, so this is what it is. And then now the
mm,
stories became a lot more clearer. um the music made a lot more sense,
mm,
and you find direction quicker
mm.
than you would as opposed to just trying to be a hardcore rapper and putting stories together.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And with you, like, was singing, or rapping, or like becoming an artist, right? Was that something that
Hmm.
like as a kid, like now going back to like being a child and looking at other musicians and looking at other artists, what
Hmm.
impact did that have on you, especially with the, like how we're talking about being able to express yourself, to express your
Yeah.
emotions, your thoughts? What
Yeah.
understanding did you have as a child uh, of the connection between those two? Did you even link those two?
Yeah. It was easy. I think for me it was very easy to link it because of the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in an environment where I was around a lot of females, right?
Mm,
So being one of the few boy children in a house that's full of girls, you get exposed to a lot of R&B and a lot of love songs and a whole lot of,
yes.
so I made the connection from a very early age because the radio would always be playing, like, I mean, early 2000s, your Beyonce, your Mario, your
Yeah.
Lloyds, those your Neo, like
Neo,
your Neo, yeah.
the whole
Those are the people,
Tamia era.
yes.
Yes.
So that's the era that I grew up in, and then like particularly at home, we
Mm-hmm.
had like our own homegrown version of what R&B was. We call it urban grooves,
Urban
right?
grooves. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like a mixture of the African sound with what American R&B sounded like at that
Mm.
point in time. So you make the connection very early on because now you hear now, especially if it's in Shona, you now understand that, oh, okay, he's talking about a girl that
Yeah.
broke his heart. He's talking about a girl that he has a crush on. I remember, um and my brother probably doesn't remember the story, but he used to have a girl that
Mm.
he used to see, and I used to accompany him because I was like his little sidekick.
Yay.
So there was always like, and then one day we go and see her and she's got her little sister, and I'm like, oh damn, I like this girl.
Yeah.
you know and then there's this one song that I started playing from then on because I would just eagerly be waiting for the day to come when when he goes to see his girlfriend, so I can
Mm.
just go and spend time with her. So I think from a very young age, and that song, it speaks about how he time moves slow, and time moves slow in order for them to see each other again. That was like one of my favorite
Mm.
songs, and then you kind of start dedicating songs from a very young age. So I
Yes.
think that's where I made the connection between um music and the
Mm.
emotions that it invokes in you. And of course, you, as much as you're in love, there comes a time where you get your heart broken,
Yeah.
and then
You
you
have the
discover
heartbreak
your heartbreak
songs.
songs like How
Yeah.
Do I Breathe. You discover your Tyrese, who now starts telling you, yay, this is what the other side of love looks like,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So, yeah, I think the connection for me from a very early age was very easy to make to connect the dots and see that,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And I think that's what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to make sure that I can convey myself in that way,
Mm.
you know
Mm.
to just put my emotions out there, because I've never been one to hide my emotions and be like, oh no, I'm macho. Yes, I do have that masculine trait in me, but if something touches me in a particular way, I am going to want to speak about it, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where music kind of came in, because it was kind of like a diary for me in terms of
Mm.
how I dealt with different things growing up and da 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 da.
That is interesting you say that because for me growing up now in Mozambique, we are neighbors by the
Hmm.
way, you know. We are
Yes,
neighbors and we are
yes.
meeting here. Oh.
Because like I actually originally where I'm from, my hometown is like literally next to the border,
The
the
one
Beira, yeah,
Beira, ne?
Beira.
Oh, so
Yes.
I've got family there. So I'm from Maputo, I'm from the south.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um but I've got family there in Beira. I think it's my dad's sister and them that
Mm.
moved up to that's the center of the country.
Mm.
So it's quite a few. It's actually further to go there than it is to come this side from Maputo, from the south.
Wow.
Mm,
That's interesting.
it's
That's
crazy.
interesting.
So
That's
I then
interesting.
now growing up there, for
Mhm.
us, our musical influence was Brazilian music.
Mm.
So we
Mm.
had a lot of like for me it was more I'll say like at the time because now I'm like in the 90s, right? So it was like
Yes.
your Brian Adams,
Mhm.
your Rod Stewart, you know, even
Mm.
Don Williams, I believe in love, you
Mm.
know. So it was
Mm.
so like in soulful, so sincere. That's kind of like the type of music I grew up in. But I didn't understand the lyrics of these English songs. I just knew that this is what the
Mm.
people listen to. But then
Yes.
there was this trend back then, and I think it's so kind of popular now that the Brazilians do to take
Mhm.
popular American love songs and turn it into Portuguese songs. So, and now Brazilians are super romantic. They are super intense with
Yes.
emotion,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
and now we also have love songs. So there's the I love you, and there's the You Broke My Heart. But there's this
Mhm.
subgenre. I was thinking about it now when prepping for this that I've
Mhm.
actually never heard um in other languages of missing you and longing for you. There's that sub path of like you
Mm.
know when you're
Mm.
sitting and
Mm.
you have a crush and you just
Mhm.
or you have a girlfriend and you miss them and you start
Yes.
a lot of songs about it's raining outside
Mhm.
and I just wish that you would burst in and I will I'll wrap you in a towel and make love to you and like it's so
Mhm.
intense.
Mm.
So like that
Mm.
expression of love was very much unavoidable for me from a very young age.
Yeah.
And then with now the more traditional songs like with us it's marabenta and
Mhm.
some like traditional changani songs there's a lot
Yeah.
of compliments. My beautiful flower, you're so beautiful. um the skies have nothing on you, like you know, just that that courting type of lyric where
Mhm.
you tell this beautiful girl how beautiful she is and how just by her being around your world is so much better, you know. And this is not even
Yes.
so much that you're talking to your girlfriend, it's just this girl's existence. So there was a lot of romanticness
Mm.
in
Mm. Mm.
my experience with music as I grew up. So I tried even to like when I started writing music and stuff,
Mhm.
I for some reason cannot recreate that and it pisses me off so much because it's the most beautiful thing for me.
You know, how what helps with me, right? Because that's, I think that's the kind of genre where I live. Yeah, that's exactly where I live.
Mm,
Because if somebody is to follow through my discography up to this point, you will get to see that there's a common thread of a human being that was in my life,
mm,
but they're not there anymore, but I'm still stuck in the era where they actually survived, or where things would have been different, or how things would have
mm,
been, so I think that's where my genre is, because I draw it from personal experience as well, or
mm,
what I hear other people going through. So sometimes as guys, we have these conversations where we're like, yo, dude, I really had that one girl that I really loved, and da 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 da, this, that, and that happened. And then you kind of
Mm.
just like put that into a song. But for me,
Mm.
most of the time, it's usually based, I think it always works best if it comes from the heart. So always think
Yeah.
about how you would have liked it if somebody was still in your life, or what would have happened if somebody was still in your life. I mean, there's this song called this project that I did last year
Mm-hmm.
called Memories We Never Had, right?
All right.
So um that that on its own, how that came about is that there was a person in my life, and then them being around, um
Mm-hmm.
we went through a lot of things together, but the things that I wish we had done. So I now go back and I start reminiscing that, okay, it was like this, that, and the third, but at the end of the day, I still wish that all of this would have happened, or these
All of this
things
would have
would have, would have been
happened.
possible. So
Mm.
just trying to draw it from personal experience, and then trying to find new exclusive ways to tell, because I think I've been telling the same story ever since I started making music, but I've
Mm.
found they've been new experiences along the way that have added to, and
That, yeah.
have kind of like enhanced the experience in terms of how the music plays out, how people now receive it and say, oh, okay, but why does it sound like there's a different muse or a different person? I'm like, well, still the
Mm.
same person. It's just that there's a different element to the story that you were not aware of.
Mm.
So that's how that genre comes about. It works best, especially with emotions and love. It works best if it comes from the heart.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense because it's also kind of like we have a lot of um kind of like, for example, like the idea, right, of
Mm-hmm.
setting the mood, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
set the mood like in how now music kind of plays into that. So
Mm-hmm.
there is the part where um let me think of a specific song. Okay, let me tell you guys about this experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now in over Christmas, my auntie was, this is the visual, right?
Mm.
Where so we're all drinking and all of that, and it's night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are outside, and she's sitting by herself. We are on this one table, but she's sitting on the other table by herself with her beer
Mm.
in hand. And the light for some reason was like on her, like it was like the
Mm.
spotlight on her type of thing.
Mm. Mm.
And she says to us, hey, can you guys play that Stimela song by Hugh Masekela type of
Mm.
thing, right?
Mm.
And she said she requests a song, and we play the song, and the song
Mm.
starts playing, and for the most part now it's silent because it's a very intense, it's an extremely intense song.
Mm.
um and it's basically him making the noises of a train, chuku, 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 woo,
Mm.
woo.
Mm.
And he
Mm.
tells a story about all these men that have left now Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and they got on the train to South Africa to work at the mines, to um kind of make the money that they need to make to give their family a better life,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
this is
Yes.
the song, what the song is about.
Mm.
My auntie sitting there, she was married to somebody who basically is a Mozambican and used to come to South Africa to work and go back home.
Mm.
So already just that, and mind you, I bet you she doesn't know what that song means because she does not speak English very well.
Oh
So she
wow.
doesn't know the meaning of that song, but that song hits, right? So
Mm.
she's sitting there, the song goes, 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 and then she says, this song reminds me of my husband. He's late now. He passed away. Reminds me of
Wow.
him. And the thing is, he introduced me to this type of music, right? And we are just looking at her. She's just sitting there with her beer. And she
Mm.
says, I remember he would come home like late at night, maybe 10,
Mm-hmm.
midnight. He would come home
Mm-hmm.
and outrun his bath. And he would go straight to the bath and he would take a bath and he would come and I would make him a warm plate of food and he would eat.
Mm.
And after that, would just um, basically, do the deed. She
Yeah,
used a
yeah, of
better wording
course.
than
Of
that.
course.
And then
Of
we'd do the
course.
thing. And after that, he would say, "Woman, what are you drinking?" So he'd have either whiskey or a beer. And she'd be like, "We'll
Mm.
have the whiskey." And they would sit there and listen to him Masikela for the rest, like until the sun came up, and would just sit and
Mm.
drink and catch up till the sun came up.
Mm.
And she's
I-
telling the story as, yo, that visual alone is so intense,
It
you know?
really is. And it's a beautiful thing because wow.
It set
Like
the tone. Like I don't hear
yo.
that song the same. Since that experience, I hear that song and I think about this woman who is now missing her husband, who would leave Mozambique, go to South Africa, work, come back
Mm.
home, and they
Mm.
created this moment.
Mm.
And it was to this song. So this song now set that mood. It set that tone, you know, and it's
Yeah.
based on what you just said. It's real life experience. And
Yeah.
I could
It
try and write a song about that, but I couldn't because it's not my experience.
mm. Mm. You see, so um in the world that we live in, so much now we have people that are trying to write about experiences. I think more now than ever,
Mm,
people are now coming up with things that relate more. I think people are finding it easier to tell their stories now because they realize that, oh hey, uh, a couple of 100,000 people are actually going to relate with what I've been through, what I went through. You know,
mm,
um, it makes it easier as a human being to now write about your experiences because,
mm,
and also you see when it comes to like what you're talking about, setting the mood. I think that it's slowly being abandoned by
yes.
the generation that we're living in. People don't really do that anymore, like just to share playlists or share songs with
Yeah.
their significant other. Like, okay, well, I do that because that's just who I am. If I
Mm,
find a song and I think it reminds me of someone, or maybe we've shared a memory to it, or whatever the case is, I'll send it to that person and be like, hey, look, this one reminds me of you, or this particular song, remember this particular day, because then what it does is it kind of personalizes the music because we could all be listening to the same song. Like
yeah.
for example, if we're all listening to How Do I Breathe by Mario,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Um your experience of How Do I Breathe versus my experience of How Do I Breathe is not going to be the same
mm,
depending on where you were at that particular moment where when you first heard that song, or when you were
mm,
introduced to the song. Who were you with? What were you doing? That's why
mm.
you find that, like, when it comes to your things like your throwback Thursdays, people just sit down and they start reminiscing, like, yo,
Yes.
hopula na ko tsela, like go high school,
Yes.
lyrics paired, writing down lyrics,
Yes.
memorizing a song, pausing it and
Yes.
playing it,
Even breaking up with someone who sung lyrics. Like, I
exactly,
remember a friend of mine was so upset with me because I left a dancing group and she
Mhm.
wrote, "I'm never gonna dance again." She wrote all those lyrics for me. Like, this is how you broke my heart. Okay. And just that, now that you're saying that, it's so crazy that we actually did communicate feelings and intention with
Mm.
music.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's where art and music in particular is so diverse because it allows you to express something so deep because there are moments where you don't know what to say, but you know that there's a song that speaks up on how.
On
Have you
your
ever like
behalf.
had a moment where you've been heartbroken and then you play a song and that song is speaking to you and it's saying, yes, this is exactly what
Mm,
happened to you. I know how you feel and I feel the same way, you know? Um, so
mm,
that's the thing about create, and I always try to do this. I always try to create memories with music, even with family. Like there's certain songs that I would play around my brothers and my sisters, and then it'll become a thing. Like, like, okay, yeah, I remember that day we were chilling, we're doing this, we play the song, and da 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 da.
Mm.
And it's like our own little moment. Like, you see what you're speaking about. I remember my first the first song that I really liked, or the first song that I had my first Valentine dance to, was No A by Jordan Sparks and
Ooh,
Chris Brown. I'll never forget that song
hey,
because of that,
yeah, yeah.
and every time it plays, even though I'm like in my mid 20s now, I still remember that
The
moment as if it was
moment.
yesterday.
That is so
Because,
true.
do you know, that
Mm.
was exactly what happened in that moment, and I can never forget it. It's like it's cemented in who I am as a person forever.
And I love also, and now that you speak that, it's so weird. It's weird to like actually talk about certain things and voice certain concepts out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because now I'm thinking now how you're talking about your school dance. I'm thinking my school dance.
Mm.
Uh, the song that stuck out for us was Avril Lavigne. It's a damn cold night. What is that song?
Mm, mm, mm,
And
mm.
I remember exactly how awkward it felt to be slow dancing with this guy, and who is now my husband. But back
You
then, that
see?
feeling of embarrassment of like, oh, this is so painful. Why is this happening right now? But I want to be dancing with him, but oh, this is so weird. We are so shy. We were so
Mm,
awkward.
mm.
And that feeling now, every time I hear that song, I remember that feeling. And I almost feel it exactly like, oh, I cringe.
Exactly. You see, and it's things like that that we don't speak about. I think for
Mm,
me, how the feeling got enhanced was, like, and I know people look whenever they listen to this will be like, really, but High School Musical, like High School
oh yeah,
Musical, Troy and Gabriella, they
yeah.
made the musical connection to love make so much sense, because that's when you're like,
Mm,
oh, okay, so that's what that feels like. And
yeah,
we've never had a thing where um somebody would come to you and be like, "Oh, hey, no, I heard the song and I thought about you." Da 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 da. For us, it was always just like, "Yeah, sure, I like you, but yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah.
we yeah, let's leave it like that." But to have
Yo,
that song that you and your person have when you first
yeah.
met, or you and your person have when he proposed, or when you had your first
Mm,
kiss, the day you got married, da 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 da, your first anniversary. That's just those little milestones
just
with
little
music.
moments. Yeah.
It just goes to show how crazy intimate music is. But people, I think, we take it more on the surface level because we haven't really explored it that much. And for me as an artist, I've explored it that much because I think that's where I now want to tap into, like those
Mm,
little moments that people haven't explored. I think, you see, this year, hopefully
mm-hmm.
this year, there's going to be a song. It's a classic R&B song that everybody around the world knows. I took it, I did my own version of it,
Nice.
and I made it Afro beats
Hey,
whilst at it.
hey.
And then I've just had that sitting, and I played it for a friend the other day. They're like, "Dude, why isn't the song out yet?" I'm like, "It's not time.
Yeah.
It has a time when I want it to come out, because that song is a piece of a puzzle in the story that I'm trying to tell. So it
Mm.
cannot come out as its own little piece, because it doesn't make sense
It
for
has
it
to
to be
be a
like
part
that."
of the bigger picture type of thing.
Exactly. You see,
Yeah.
so and I'm also trying to do a thing where I start revisiting. Well, for me, as a guy that grew up listening to a lot of urban grooves, I'm trying to revisit that era of urban grooves and bring
You
back
should
that
send me
raw
some stuff. I
emotion.
actually really like I like um uh I don't like to call it traditional, but you know what I mean. Like in I
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
yeah, that.
the African sound. I'll
Yes, I
definitely.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because even like with the Mozambican music and stuff, there are times where I
Mm-hmm.
just go back to like old school. It's so damn
Mm,
romantic.
mm,
It's so romantic, you know.
exactly.
There's
Mm.
this one. What does it say? Nakunavela. Like in I I
I
you
think
see,
I've
we
heard
don't
that
even
song
have
before. Eh?
words. Shiluva shami ni na na ni na ni na mi ne. Um
I've heard that song
ne?
before. I've heard that song.
I think it's Jose Barata. What's the name of the song? Da, 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 da. Ah, now I can't remember it. But even certain words, the fact that they certain words like nakunavela, it's like
Mm-hmm.
like I'm calling you, I want you, but it's not I
Mm-hmm.
want you like that. It's I'm craving you almost, right? But I like that we
Mm-hmm.
have these very specific words that you can't say in English. They don't translate the same, like
Exactly.
I crave you because you make me so happy. I
Mm,
crave
mm,
you, my flower. When last did
mm.
somebody call like, hello, my flower? You
Like
don't get
you
that.
know,
Huh?
you
Shiluba
don't get that
Shamina.
anymore.
Ah, come
Like
on, guys. My
we
flower.
don't
It's so simple, but it's so beautiful. It's like, oh, I'm your flower, baby. Yes.
exactly. You see, and I think that's where um now that whole urban grooves, like me connecting back to the Shona thing, is coming in because
Yes.
I've realized now that there are certain things that I would like to express in English, but they don't have the same impact as if I express them in Shona.
Mm-hmm.
And as of late, if people have noticed, I've been incorporating a lot more Shona into the music that I make because I've found it so easier to now express myself in Shona, to
Yep.
be like, oh, okay, well, because it's my native tongue, so it's easier for
Yep.
me to play around and be like, yes, this is what I want to say, this is how I want to say it, you know. But the only problem that I'm facing now is that I have been away from home for such a long time that my Shona dialect doesn't really
No.
sound like it's
It
Shona
doesn't sound
anymore.
nice.
No, like to somebody who's hearing it for the first time and then essay, they'll be like, oh, that sounds nice,
That's nice. Yeah.
but to somebody who is Shona and they've got a heavy Shona accent, they'll be like, no, no, wait, that sounds off. But I get what you're saying, but it sounds off, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
I've got
But
that because I got
mm,
so offended where now also going back home. Plus, I
mm-hmm,
haven't been home in 2 years
mm-hmm,
since COVID. So I went back
yes.
home and I can't remember what sentence I said, but I said a sentence and my dad is like, ooh, that is very good Portuguese. I'm like, really? Really? Like, and it's such a basic sentence. I think it was something like oh, I had been there before.
Mm-hmm,
But it's like, oh, you constructed that sentence so well. I'm like, am I
mm,
5? What is
mm,
going on?
mm,
Like,
mm.
and it's so sad how you just lose the the language, and I hate it so much because
Yeah,
it opens more room for expression. I feel like in the more dialects you are able to speak, it opens
yeah.
more doors for expression.
Mm, it really does. And I would like to see us as African artists actually embrace our languages more in
Yes.
the music that we make, because I personally believe that uh, we as Africans, we've got the most beautiful languages.
Oh yeah.
We really have the most
Yeah.
beautiful languages. And if people were to write a lot more love songs, especially since this is the month of love, if people were to write a lot more love songs in their native tongue, wow, the
It
world would, yo,
lands. It lands. Like it will be
exactly.
so more beautiful. And also just what is also nice for me is like the honesty, right? Because it's so simple. It's not very
Mm,
elaborate.
mm,
We the way they write, there's this other one, Alberto Chitonzo, Beijing, she's
mm-hmm,
the name of the song. And one of
mm-hmm,
the lines is like my kiss my kiss is your kiss. He actually says it in English at some point. My kiss is your kiss, honey. But it's so
mm,
funny how he says that.
mm,
But my kiss
mm,
is your kiss. My pillow is your pillow. My bed is your bed. It's so
mm,
basic, but like how it's to me, it's so effective because I think of like now how sometimes you are cuddling with your partner or whatever, and then you're sharing the pillow for that moment. My
mm,
kiss
mm.
is your kissy, honey. My pillow is your
Exactly.
pillow. Just that. And
And
it's
it's
beautiful.
something that's simple. It's simple, but it's really
It's
um
effective.
it's effective because I mean, how else are you gonna tell that person that, or you try to say it in English, though, because I think for us, since this is the language that came with the colonizers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know the nuances, and we can't really express ourselves in the same way that they would use that language to express themselves, you know, because now this is what we grew up listening to,
Mm.
and we know that this is okay. This is what mommy or daddy would say to each other when they
Yeah.
love, or this, that, and the third, or this is how love was from a cultural perspective. Because also looking at it like
Yes. I actually
how
wanted to get to that.
how South Africans experience love is different from how Mozambicans experience love, is different from how the Shona people experience love,
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
not the same.
And did you
Uh,
do you feel even with the do you find even like now, I don't know when last you've been home and
mhm,
how much interaction you have with Zim right now, right?
mhm,
But do you find that there are just certain aspects of love and relationship that, or rather, because obviously you've said that there are these aspects that are different, but what can you
yeah.
point out that you'd say in Zim it's more like this, in SA it's more like this?
I think for me, looking at the environment that in them, rather, it's pretty straightforward.
Mm,
You know, if you like someone, you like someone. You tell them that you like them, and you guys figure it out,
mm,
right? There isn't, but then what I've noticed here is, and yes, the courting process is there. You of course you have to court the person, but how you would court a girl in Zim versus how you'd court a girl in SA is two different things, right?
yeah.
Because in the Shona language, it's
Mm-hmm,
pretty simple. I like you, and I want you to be my girlfriend. Simple
mm-hmm,
as that, right?
mm-hmm, mm,
Here in SA, yo, I like you, and then talking stage, and then da 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 da. All
yeah.
of these other little nuances that come along with it, And I think also, with the relationships that I've seen, there's an element of, um, I love my person as a whole, you know
Yes.
that's what I've noticed with, when I go back home, when you can tell that this love is really unconditional, because these people can literally just be walking down the street sharing Coca-Cola together, or just buying a simple 5 rand ice cream for each other, but the intimacy of it all is just like, wow, I want that
Mm,
someday,
mm,
and then you come, and I guess also it's because of how we take, well, Zimbabwe doesn't really have that much of a Western influence. It has some elements that are Western, but here in SA, I think the Western influence is super heavy.
it's
you know
intense. It
it's
is
intense,
intense because even
because
certain concepts, like in,
mm-hmm,
I'll say now, it's not even so much what we're going to talk about, but like I've been seeing now, I don't know if you kind of, but I'm sure you do, like the whole idea of the red pill community, the blue
yes,
pill, and all of
yes,
that crap.
yes, yes,
And there's so many concepts of this red pill messaging that I was talking to my friend this week. I was like, you know what, there are certain things that fine I can see, but a lot of those things don't apply to Africa as a whole, never mind South Africa or Zim.
yeah,
A
yeah,
simple one, for example, is the whole thing of like in, skinny women, right? You want a
mm,
skinny woman and stuff. And I said, look, I've
mm,
been skinny my whole life, right? I
exactly,
struggle to put on weight, but I've
mm,
not approached nearly as much as my curvier friends are, because
exactly,
African men like curvy, thicker women. That's what, not
exactly,
fat. I'm not saying go ahead and get fat. Don't
mm,
twist my
mm,
words.
mm-hmm,
But there's this point where you are like nice and curvaceous and thick and womanly. Because even till now, right?
mm,
People think I'm 24. I'm like, ma'am, no, I am not. But it's like, oh, you have
mm,
such a tiny body. They literally judge my age based on how small I am. Like I'm a
yeah,
child
mm,
compared to most people. And but I know for a fact that the desired shape is like maybe 3, 4. sizes up mine. I'm
Mm,
too
mm,
small for a high value earning man, a
mm,
black
mm,
man, African man.
mm,
He wants a
mm.
woman. He's not looking for a young 20 something year old. He wants a woman of age who is educated. That does count this
Exactly.
side. When you take
Mm,
home somebody that, oh, my wife has a master's in accounting, you know, she has a job, she has her own
yeah.
car, you know, she
Yeah.
looks like a woman, you know,
Mm.
that's what is a desired woman here. But the whole idea that that red pill messaging applies here is very detrimental, and I see it affecting a lot of young people, and it's distorting a lot of the perception of what really works here and
Yeah,
what
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. And I think that's why they always say take whatever you take with the whatever you consume, take it with a pinch of salt, because
Yep.
most of these people are speaking from a first world perspective. You're
Yes.
speaking from a
From a third world
third
perspective.
world perspective. You
Yeah.
can't apply first world principles to a third world. You need to
Yeah.
deal with third world principles in a third world.
In the third
That's
world.
it's as simple as that,
Yeah.
you know. So when you you now find things like, for example, how people are now not taking this thing of waiting until marriage seriously,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
For me it's like, okay guys, but as Africans, if you go back to where we come from, that's kind of like what our that's where our that's why as Africans we don't have a very high rate of divorce or
Mm.
divorces, because our parents, their generation, they met, and in them meeting they had to prove that they love each other, and in their loving each other, due to how the family and the values that were instilled in them, they did not see it okay to be like, oh yeah, no, a couple of one night stands here and there and
Yeah.
we'll be good. No, no, no. It was okay. You want me, and if you say you want me in that way, you're gonna
We
have
have
to
to
prove
prove
yourself,
one,
and
two, three.
you have to make me your
Mm-hmm.
wife,
Yeah.
and then you can have
Yes.
me in that way. You
Yes.
know.
Yes.
So it's, and in Zim, like you see, for me, one thing that I found very crazy when I first moved here, and I started growing up, was the concept of baby mamas and baby daddies, right?
Mm.
I was like, wait, what? You can run away from responsibility?
Yeah.
Really?
You can. You didn't
You
know.
you like, really,
Well,
you're not
men
obligated.
can. We can't,
Men
because I mean,
can,
you're
but
stuck with that baby.
but but for me, where I come from, I've always had, it's always been instilled in me that, okay, should I mess around and get a girl pregnant outside the the bracket of, or outside the constitution of marriage, right?
You have to
By
stand
my
out.
tradition, she's now my wife,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And um even if it, that's why it's very important that, if should that happen in that way, then that person needs to be somebody that I'm willing to live with for the
Mm.
rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I come from, once a girl comes home and says, oh hey, I'm pregnant by Kxdzaii, that's my wife.
It's done.
I can't
Yeah.
now run away and be
And
like,
and
oh
she actually
no.
comes to live at your house from that moment.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so I found it weird. I'm like, wait, what? No,
It's a
that's
weird
not.
thing. It's a weird
It's
thing. And a lot of it is, I would say, I mean, this is a whole other different conversation, right? To the
mm,
one that we are having. But a lot of it definitely is political and cultural, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
one thing, for example, that is different that I'll say, I don't know if you guys have it exempt, that we have back home,
mm-hmm,
is we call it, it's almost like an introduction. So
yes,
when that introduction happens, what that means is basically, it's not an engagement, but it's
mm-hmm,
literally my family or your family comes to my house, right? The guy's family
mm-hmm,
goes to the girl's house to say, we saw a
mm,
flower and we like her. At that
mm-hmm,
moment, the families know that you guys are dating and you are intending to get married. That's
mm,
why
mm,
you don't date and bring every boyfriend or girlfriend that you have to the house. You're not allowed to
exactly,
do that. The only person
yeah,
that's allowed to come to the house is the person whose family has come to this house to say that they're
mm,
interested in
mm,
you.
mm,
And then they put jewelry on you. They put you a ring, they put you a watch, a bracelet, and a necklace and earrings. And what that does, it says, okay,
mm,
Kxdzaii, when you go outside, right? And me as your mother, and I see you standing with another girl, and it's not that girl that we went to the house. It's like, Kxdzaii, what are you doing? Who's this girl? Where is Sophia? Because we know
Exactly.
Sophia, and it does the other
Exactly.
way around. Sophia,
Mm,
where's
mm,
Kxdzaii? Who's this boy?
mm.
Then the families are now
Exactly.
accountable, and the
Mm.
responsibility is beyond me and you. That's why people that side in Mars, they
Yeah.
don't just um I'm not going to say they don't date or they don't sleep around. They do that. But when you are now introduced to the family, chances are you guys are going to get married. The
Yeah.
commitment
And
is very early on. This is before you guys get
exactly.
engaged.
Mm, mm. And for us, I think for how we do it is that if I now meet a girl and I know, okay, we've been together for a long time and I intend to, you know, get married to her, I'd need to introduce her to my aunt so that my
Mm,
aunt knows who she is.
mm,
And should my aunt, and what she would need to do is I'd introduce me to her aunt and be like, oh,
mm-hmm,
auntie, this is who this is my person now. We've been together for X amount of time, da 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 da. Because now what happens is they now take the matter to
to
our
the
parents and be like, oh,
family.
hey, look, your child wants to do 1 2 3 4 5. I've met the person and I think the person is good, da 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 da. you know so now should my aunt see me with another girl, then she needs to hold me accountable and be like, okay, dude, but that's not the girl you introduced to me. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
And vice versa. you know so it's very interesting how culture shapes our views on love, because for
Mm-hmm.
me love has always been that thing that's super sacred. Like, I don't want it to just be something that's okay. Yeah, no, we were together for 2 months and then it meant nothing. We had
Yeah,
fun and that was that. For
yeah.
me, that really doesn't work, because where I'm from, if you with somebody and maybe certain things happen, you argue, or you find out things about them that happened in their past that don't so necessarily affect you.
Mm,
You work through those things. That's kind of
mm,
how it was always instilled in us, in like growing up, that okay,
mm.
no, look, not everyone that you meet is not going to be 100% perfect in how you want them to be.
To be.
But
Mm-hmm.
you will meet somebody that's maybe 80% who you want them to be, and then 20% who you don't want them to be.
Yeah.
So now you need to ask yourself, are you willing to put in the work to compromise, or at least meet them halfway at where they are at that 20, at that 80%, and then you be the other 20%, and vice
Mm,
versa. you
mm,
know
mm.
so culture really plays a very big role in terms of how we view love.
And
And I
isn't it
wish
cool
people really
how
understood.
there's a
Mhm.
song for each of these events? Like
There is.
there's like I can't think of songs, but like in every time there's like a marriage type thing or whatever, there's a song for that.
There's
Like
a
I
song.
always find
There's
that so
there's always
fascinating.
a song. There's always, and it's really interesting, because sometimes it doesn't even have to be a song that's composed.
No,
Sometimes it's
it's
just a
those
song
cultural
that
songs, those
it's those
traditional
cultural
songs that
songs.
everybody
Exactly.
knows. It's like the wedding
Mm.
songs. Mako tikiri nako, hachika chika
Uyabo.
mako. Like
And
these wedding songs, and we always overlook that stuff because you kind of forget that wait, even these little interactions or me coming to your house, you know,
mm,
your
mm,
neighbors
mm.
know there's a wedding happening there because they are singing that
Exactly.
song, or your neighbors know there's a
Mm,
funeral there because they are singing those songs. Like
exactly.
the music communicates whatever is happening, and just that commonality, I'd say, like despite even how differently we do things in terms
Mm,
of the courting process and
mm.
all of that, one thing that all African countries have in common is we fucking have wedding songs.
Yeah.
Every single country has it, and I love it.
Period.
I
Go
love
to
it.
any go to any part of Africa. There's a wedding song
There's a wedding
for
song, and they
when somebody's
transcend,
getting married.
like, and even in more, sometimes we sing songs from South Africa, or
Mm,
because now we are
mm.
bordered there. I bet you if we go like to the north of Mars, there's some Shona songs that people sing there because they also do
Exactly.
Shona, and it's just fascinating. Like there's music to celebrate every step of your relationship, every step of your that union that you decide to have with
mm,
someone. So
mm, mm,
culturally, even that, like in music and dance,
mm.
is used to celebrate love.
Exactly. And it just goes to show that, there's this thing that I'm currently studying. It's called, excuse me, it's called frequency programming,
Hmm.
where and I think this is something that the greatest artists, like your Michael Jacksons, your Whitney Houstons, um your Prince, they really understood frequency programming very well. um because if you play an instrument at a certain, and I'm sure you, having studied music, you
Yeah.
know this, if you play an instrument at a certain frequency or with a certain kind of cadence, it invokes a different kind of feeling in a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you find that, like, the guys that, for example, listen to rock, you find them angry all of the time, and they
Guys.
themselves don't understand why they're angry. But if they really listen to the vibration that the music um puts out from the frequencies that it's emitting, then they would
Mm.
actually get to realize that, oh well, this particular frequency, because it's also something that I came across, the audio engineers for horror movies, they do
Yeah.
that. That's why
Yes,
you find that
yes.
with
Like
horror
certain
movies,
notes,
there's
certain chords and stuff,
exactly.
they evoke that. I
Mm,
can tell you something even with rock, because I think that's actually the other
mm-hmm,
genre that was on my thing. I love rock as well, right?
mm-hmm,
Rock has this misconception for thing. Sometimes there's certain aspects of it that are confused too. Like how you're saying, like they said anger aspect, but it's
mm, mm,
more intensity than anything else. Listen to
yeah,
any rock love song. It is so
mm-hmm,
intense. It's so deep. It's so, like it comes from that place of desperation of like that's why maybe the lyrics are a little bit so like, I wanna lay you down on a bed of roses, and tonight I will lay on a bed of nails. Like, and I will go
mm,
the extra mile to hurt myself for you because I feel for you so deeply, so intensely. So rock taps into that depth. Like, and it's a very it's almost like, and I think that's why teenagers tend to land more with like rock and punk and stuff,
yeah,
because
yeah.
as a teen you kind of, oh my god, if you just think of how I was even talking to my husband the other day. I was like, don't you miss, being in love during your teens? It's like, I don't ever want to feel that type of intensity, like the way you love when you're a teenager, that feeling of, I don't know what to do with myself, I just like this girl so much that I want to die. And he
Mm, mm,
and and I feel like rock kind of taps into that, and that's why generally, like as teens, at least for me, it was like that. I could really like tap into that intensity. I personally like intense feelings, but a lot of
mm,
people don't, and maybe that's why very few people resonate with stuff like rock. And
mm.
because it's that deep, it's intense, the music itself, like the guitars, the drumming, the bass, like everything is so.
Yeah.
And especially if you go to like your 80s glam rock, like your Guns N'
Mm-hmm.
Roses era, your Aerosmith, that,
Mm.
everything is so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to die. Why? It's so confusing.
Mm, mm, mm,
So it's one of those things where, again, like if you can dissect these feelings and tap into them, I think different genres
mm.
can bring different levels of intensity to just those feelings of love, because everyone does it in a nice way. Like country is so warm, it's so cute, you know. R&B sometimes is so bubble gum and all of that stuff, and hip hop
Mm,
hip
mm.
hop is very poetic with it. Not
Yes,
the
yes,
sex
most
stuff. Like
definitely.
that's where I can't do. Um, I'm a little bit of a purist. Like
I
I
think
I don't like such. I don't like
like
vulgarity in
my
music.
my thing is with the way hip hop goes about it. Since hip hop was it was, how do I say this? It was America's way of them um expressing themselves and what they were going through at that point in time.
Hmm.
So I think because of its explicit nature, right? And I myself lately, I've actually been regressing back into my purest form.
Yeah.
So as a result, I'm kind of like now cringing at the way hip hop kind of like
Has
describes those
turned.
things, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I know, I get it, but come on, we
It's
can do
so it's
better.
too
You don't
deep,
need to
bruh.
be so,
It's too much.
yo, like
Like I'm okay with the cursing, but just the
it gets too
vulgarity of it,
much.
yeah, it's too much. It's like I'm like, ooh,
Exactly.
you start relating to the old
Because
people now. You're like, okay, I get why.
because for some of us, we think in images, and it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
wow,
Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
lot.
That
You know,
visual. I know. Oh, it's too much.
you see,
It's too much.
but it just goes to show that the emotions that come with music as a whole, and
Mm,
the things that it can do for humans is very beautiful, especially when it comes to love.
yeah.
Because wow, um I don't think when who's this, um that girl that wrote loving
Can
you is
you
easy
see
because
'cause
it's
you're
Minnie
beautiful.
Riperton. I don't think when she wrote that song, she wasn't thinking about her person. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she knew, because she was probably just at home like, oh my god, I'm in love with this guy and I don't
Yes.
know
And
what
it's
to do.
easy
You know,
because it's
same thing
beautiful.
with like, exactly, and same thing with like Tamia when she wrote So Into You. Like
Mm.
it it was it's something that comes in the moment. Like you're just sitting and you're
Oh,
like,
you know what's the
oh
one
my
for
god.
me these days?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like so uh is it Tyrell or Trevon Campbell? Can we talk, yo,
Mm,
for a
mm,
minute? The
mm.
idea that I want to talk to you, but I'm shy. Okay, the next
Or
time I see you,
yeah.
this is what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I like that
Mm,
internal dialogue that we all have. Like
mm,
you
mm.
see this girl you like, I'm like, ah, crap, she's gone now. I can't talk. And then you go sit there like, this is what I'm going to say to them the next time
The
I
next
see
time
them.
I see them.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that
Mm.
approach. It's
And
beautiful.
that's what I think most artists, well, our my generation of artists doesn't really explore, because for me that's kind of like where my music stemmed from. My very first project, I wrote it because I couldn't tell a girl that I have a crush on her, so I wrote a whole
Mm,
EP just to get over those feelings and be like, okay, sharp,
yeah.
I've dealt with this, I am closing this chapter, it's done. you know
It is
and
God.
it's it's God. It really is God. Like it's God. And now, um, as I progressed through the years, I actually got the courage to be like, oh hey, look, no, I wrote the song because of
Mm,
you, da 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 da. Oh, and then later on, when people find out, they're like, wait, what? I inspired that song. I'm like, yeah, you did. You didn't
mm,
know? Oh well, now you know.
mm,
You know, because it's
mm.
always easier to draw it from real life experiences, because
Yeah,
for me, real life beats everything, because I know that in a world full of 7 billion people, there's no way that nobody has felt the way that I've felt. I
yeah.
can't be the only one
You
who's
can't be the
feeling this
only
kind
one.
of way, you know?
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Man, this was so cool. I'm so happy we had this chat because it just opened up
Yeah,
like
like
just
it
all
it
those
it, it was
little nuances into like just how love and art come together from a perspective of I would
mm,
say artists, musicians, and it's things that we don't
mm-hmm,
really
mm-hmm.
dive into, that we don't like openly explore. I don't think we even think about it as much because it's music is such a natural
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
life, and you don't really think on like,
No, I don't think we do. I think it's yeah, yeah.
but yeah. um
Mm.
I think we'll wrap it up here. Do you have any last thoughts? Do you want to plug stuff? Give you a moment.
Um, my last words would be, don't be afraid of love. and love is what happens when you're not looking for it. I've always known that if you don't go looking for love, it's going to come to you, and when it comes to you, it comes to you like a flood, you know. But the only thing that I'm going to plug right now is my socials. It's the Shona Rockstar, or Shona Rockstar underscore, or one word, on Instagram, on
Mm,
Facebook, on YouTube, everywhere you go.
mm,
I've got new videos coming out every Wednesday and Friday. I'm doing a crazy content run for the first quarter of the year. Um, and then I've got a EP that's actually out, Rudo, an African love story. It's available on Spotify. It's available wherever, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it. You can find it there. And the
all right.
translation is so direct. Rudo means love, and so that's why Rudo, an African love story. So it's kind of like how love is for, well, through my eyes as an African. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really been an awesome conversation.
So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you, Kxdzaii, for being here with me. It was such a pleasure. It was such an honor to once again talk to the person who inspired the person that I am today. To be very frank with you, I don't think if I didn't have that moment with him that day, that I would be in, that I would have even thought, and that I would have had the opportunity to even be behind the mic. And for that to have actually opened the doors for me to be here today and to um, run podcasts like I do. So remember, guys, to follow me on social media. I'll put all the details below on the show notes, even where you can get a hold of Kxdzaii and how you can follow his music. Please go support him because he does such amazing music and he's such a down to earth guy. I actually want to encourage you all to become a part of his community. I know he's got some great stuff coming up in the future. So just please follow what he's doing, become a part of his community, support him. Let's help build this brother up because he's got so much to show us. He's got so much love. He's so sweet. He's so down to earth. And yeah, I just really want us to boost this man. So yeah, remember to subscribe, follow, share, and don't forget, guys, always lead with kindness because this world is already full of such shitty people, and we don't need any more to make the world even more crazy than what it is right now. So I'll see you guys on next week's episode of the Growed Up Podcast. Love you.